Okay, well let's go ahead and get started, everybody. And it's a little bit after 12 o'clock out here in Northern California, and really glad that you are with me and Larry Turville today. And what I'm going to do today is, first of all, give Larry a little bit of an introduction here. He obviously doesn't need a whole lot, but Larry's currently living in Naples, Florida. And if you were on a few minutes ago, you were hearing him talk to Steve Cornell, who's a good friend of ours out here in Northern California. And Larry sounds like Larry's teaching a little bit on a private court there. And Larry's currently ranked #1 in the world, senior 60s. And recently, I know all of you saw those videos at WebTennis where Larry played the semifinals and also the finals of the USA National 60 Hard Courts down at Mission Hills Country Club in Rancho Mirage just a couple weeks ago, and is also the current World 60s Singles and I guess doubles. Is that right, Larry?
That's correct.
Yeah. In Turkey last year. So congratulations, Larry, and I'm telling you, it's really an honor to have you with us today. Thanks so much.
Hey, well, it's great to be here, and I feel honored myself that that many people are kind of interested in senior tennis, and out there playing and wanting to get better.
And really, Larry, I think probably the most common, theme of a comment has, everyone's just kind of marveled at the consistency of your game, and that it looks like, it's not a huge Rafa-like type of power game, which I think so many senior players who don't play a lot of tournaments think that. I think that's their perception that, I've really got to learn how to be a big-time power player. And what you demonstrated in both of those matches is that if you're super accurate, and especially with the depth of your slice backhand, that you can really make it simple. And so one of the questions was, after watching you being so accurate, do you ever have matches where your pinpoint control just isn't there? And if so, what do you do?
Certainly, I've got matches where I play better than others, but when you're hitting a slice, if you are maybe hitting the ball a little too deep, then that means you've just got to lean into the ball a little more, or maybe even bring your racket up a little higher so you're hitting down into it. Sometimes I make a few errors because maybe I don't turn if I'm not getting enough power on my slice, then I'm not really turning my shoulder enough. So it's kind of like being out on the golf course where you futz a few out there and you go, golly, and the great thing about tennis is you're allowed to, lose a game or two and still hang in there. Usually I can come up with some kind of an adjustment to get the ball going.
So that's really a good thought. I mean, I think some guys will just kind of abandon if they've got a specific strategy and things aren't working well on that particular day. It sounds like what you're saying, Larry, is that you really kind of have to know, your strokes well enough to know how to adjust. Like you said in that slice backhand, if you're going deep on it, that I love what you just said, is you've really got to get a little bit more body weight or lean down on the ball a little more, get some pressure on it to keep it in. And so really what you're saying is it's really less about, well, I'm going to now go to plan B or plan C and maybe make some stroke adjustments from there.
Well, I would say that's what I'd want to go to first, and I tried at least within almost the set to try to make those adjustments.
Right.
When I was a little younger, and even now, when you basically, my plan B would be, okay, I got to serve and volley more, or I got to attack more.
Right.
And I think what you'll find is, okay, if for some reason I'm starting to lose all the baseline rallies because they're just hit too heavy a ball, or they're, just knocking off winners, well then it doesn't really matter what my adjustment is. I gotta change my game style and get more aggressive, and hope that does some good. Sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. But you try to. If it's just a matter of you're playing and you're missing a few, and maybe you're missing them by 3 or 4 inches, but you're basically in the points. You're just making some unforced errors. Well, then you try to make your adjustment.
Okay.
It's more of a question of I'm just getting hammered here. I'm losing the majority of the points, and I'm getting the ball in, but I'm just getting beat. Then it's time to go to plan B and hope for the best.
Do you have an NTRP rating?
I do. It's a 5.0. Not sure whether it's I'm a 5.0, but that's what it says I am.
Well, I mean, I don't think there's. I don't think there's any question in anyone's mind that you're a 5.0. It's interesting that there have been a number of responses wondering what your rating is, and if and I've been going back saying, well, he's got to be at least a 5.0, and even I think that there are a lot of 5.5 guys that you would handle. Are you playing any league matches at all, or are you strictly just playing tournaments?
Yeah, I'm just playing tournaments. What I've found is, number one, if you play a 5.0 league that's younger league, well, you're going to be playing against some 5.5 and young college players that are a little hit the ball just a little too hard, a little too good,
Right.
And if it was a senior league that's a 5.0, 50 and above or whatever, then I'm more than happy to jump in there and try to do something. But the problem then is that we really don't have that many players
Right.
at that level to make up teams, so then it becomes difficult. So, I kind of enjoy team competition, but for me, the USTA league thing just doesn't quite work. There's just not enough guys like me around.
Right. Okay. Larry? What's your normal weekly practice schedule like? You're not at a tournament. Maybe you've got a tournament coming up in 3-4 weeks or more. What's the mix of your on-court time and any kind of off-court training in a normal week?
Yeah, I'm on the lighter side. I figure maybe 3 days a week is my schedule, and I'm playing. But typically when I'm playing, I'm going to play for about an hour and a half on clay. If I'm hitting the ball reasonably well and I've got an opponent that's pretty even, I like to play sets, because we're having a good workout, we're having good points, and I feel like I'm using most of what I'm doing, and I'm really getting the groove going. If I'm playing somebody maybe that's not as good as I am, but that's relatively steady, then what I'll try to do is we'll play for the first half an hour, 45 minutes, we'll do some drills. And I can tell you that I've got a really favorite drill that some people might want to try. And it's basically you start out and you hit 2 cross court and 1 down the line. And the one person stays, the other person runs. And, you're not running that bad because you get to stay for 2, and you got to run over there and hit it down the line. And then that person's always having to hit back to a spot. Whereas if you're the person changing the directions, you're changing. What I don't really like is just hitting cross courts, because I feel like after 10, to me, I'm that's enough. I need to be able to change directions,
Right.
And that's really what a match is all about, is being able to change directions. And then you basically got 4 stations there. They can do it, then you go over to the backhand, do it, you can do them. Then your next drill, which if you can do this and do it at a reasonable pace and be able to do 10 to 20 shots in a row without missing, it's pretty good. And this is what it is. It's 2 cross court and 1 down the line for one player. The other player only hits cross court. So what happens is down the line ball, you have to then run over to the backhand because they're going to go over, and instead of returning it to the forehand, they're going to hit it cross court and hit it over to your backhand. And then you do your two cross court, one down the line.
That's, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's a great drill. I feel like when I get grooving on that thing, now I'm rolling.
Well, that's kind of, I mean, that's what the matches look like. The semis and the finals sort of look like. It looked almost like a practice drill where, and the thing that you just said, Larry, is that, match play is so much about changing direction of the ball, and I think, knowing when to change direction, depending on what kind of ball you're getting in. So, to me, that is just a no-brainer type of drill that anyone can do. And the other thing you said in there is you've got to do it at a speed where you've got some control of the shots. I mean, you don't want to go out there and try this drill hitting at 95%. If you can't do it at 50%, then you need to get control first, and then you can slowly but surely take up. Take the speed up there. Are you doing any kind of off-court stuff? I think in one of your comments you mentioned that you do a little bit of core stuff on a daily basis, but that sounds like about a 5 to 10 minute routine every day. No,
there you go. I'm a big believer in the core, and I try to do it about twice a day, 5 minutes. You know what I've been negligent in, and I certainly encourage people is to do a few push-ups, but I'm been falling off, and I got a little sore arm. So then occasionally I feel like, well, if I got a sore arm and I do a push-up, then it's going to even make it worse, So
right, sure.
But the core just helps me big time on serving, keeping the back strong, and it's all around good.
Good. Okay.
Doesn't take much time. And then when I'm playing a tournament or pretty active, I try to do a fair amount of stretching, but I've got like about a 5 to 10 minute routine, and try to do that because you're going to stiffen up, as the tournament goes along.
Well, I think too, as we get older, it's easy to overdo this stuff, and I think that you're smart in saying a little bit on a regular basis is going to pay off a lot more than a ton of work every so often. So. Here's the next question, Larry, and I got to tell you, when I was watching you, live against Brian Cheney last year in the finals, I got the same feeling then as I did watching both of these matches this year, and that the points really look, it looks like both guys are kind of hanging in there, and no one's really got the advantage, and the opponents are winning some points, but when you tally up the score, they're just not winning very many games. What are we missing there? To me, what I see is that you're very content staying in the point and just waiting for that opportunity, whereas, at the same time, you're really not hitting shots that are giving your opponent any kind of clear offensive advantage. So, it's kind of, I don't know, you call it false advertising, but it looks like the points are pretty close, and yet these guys aren't winning very many games.
Well, my mantra has always been make the guy earn his points. I feel like if you lose a match and your opponent earned most of the points, you can have a beer and feel pretty darn good about it. If you give away points, well, then you can start beating yourself up. But that's my first thing, and then what it comes down to is if I can serve reasonably well and get a reasonable first serve percentage in, then I'm going to be in control of a fair number of points on my serve, which means I'm going to win a pretty good percentage of my, in most of those matches. In fact, I don't think I lost my serve at all against Wesley, or maybe I lost one or two, but generally I'm winning my serve. And then all I'm looking is to be patient and, make them earn the points. And I figure sooner or later I'm going to get some chances on their serve if they're not getting all their first serves in. And most of the guys now, if I can get a second serve to look at, I can pop it and, put them on a little defense or at least be well into the point.
Right. Right.
So
Okay.
that's where you hold your serve and you break once or twice. It's a 6-3 set.
Okay. Well, we didn't see many 6-3 sets in the last couple of years down there, Larry.
Well, maybe you break twice.
Okay. All right. All right. Serve and volley. We really haven't. I mean, other than the doubles, in the singles, in the matches that I've seen the last couple of years in Mission Hills on the hard courts, have not seen really a steady diet of serve and volley. And one of the questions that I got from my subscribers, has been, geez, the guy is 6'7", and it looks like he's just kind of easing the serve in play. I'm sure he's got more pop in the serve than that. And clearly, it sounds like, and according to you, that your favorite surface is on clay, which is traditionally not a serve and volley type of surface. But has there been, or do you now, serve and volley at all? And if so, is it maybe against a certain type of opponent?
Well, it was kind of ironic that, when one thing that the younger players, maybe the older players appreciate this, but, when we went from wood to metal, the rackets were so terrible. I was playing with a T2000 and then a Yoniyama, and they were just pieces of junk, and you couldn't hit ground strokes very well. At least I couldn't. And so, this was in my 30s, and I ended up serving a volley almost all the time. I mean, that was it, because I just couldn't feel like I could keep the ball in play very well.
Okay.
So when I got a little older, and finally they came up with the Prince rackets, and the Prince Graphite Pro, I think, was my first one that I could. So I go, oh man, I can actually hit some ground strokes. And I also decided that the serve volley thing is a lot of work, because you're doing a 5-yard dash every time, even when you miss your serve.
Right.
So the good thing, and I think what players don't quite realize, is that what the advantage of coming to net still doesn't mean I don't like to come to net. And I like to come to net off the second ball or the third ball or whichever ball it is, so that when I come to net, now I'm inside the service line and in a reasonably good position to make a volley. When you serve and volley, a lot of times, not a lot of times, but you open yourself up to like a Wesley Jackson just bumping it low at your feet. And then you got to hit some kind of great half volley, which isn't that easy to do, and unless you're for Landauer, and then the guy's got a good pass
Right.
to take advantage of you. So I'd much rather take that second or third ball. Now there is one caveat. Occasionally you play against guys who just sort of float back the ball. They just kind of float it back off the returns, and I do that sometimes myself. Then you need to really go, okay, once in a while I need to serve a volley to take away that shot, because they're just floating it back deep, not doing anything with it. Those would be excellent chances to volley off of. But as it is, I'm allowing them to get in the point, float it back deep, and in fact, maybe putting me on the defense.
So the guys who like to float the return, I mean, I guess what you're saying is you at least have to show them on somewhat of a regular basis that you're willing to come in and play a transitional volley off that high floater. Doesn't mean that you have to do it.
Surprise them a little bit,
right?
So that they'll think, ooh, and then once in a while, almost look like you're going to serve a volley,
right?
So that all of a sudden they then maybe try to start hitting shorter returns, and you mess them up a little bit.
Okay. Diet-wise, you doing anything special? You got anything that you're eating that you really believe in, or anything that you're staying away from?
Well, I think I have a pretty good diet. You know what I do? I don't eat a whole lot of breakfast, but I'll eat. If I'm playing a tournament, it's toast and cereal with fruit. Lunch is a half a sandwich and soup, and then dinner's. I like vegetables, so I like to have either a piece of fish or something with a lot of vegetables. I do like a couple cookies after that, but that's about it. And I take a few vitamins, but I don't overdo it, you know.
Right.
And I've never felt like, I think when it gets hot, you know, like it was starting to get there the last couple of days, then I'll switch from water to Gatorade. I think some players make the mistake of drinking Gatorade straight. That's bad. You got to put ice in it because it'll really mess your stomach up if you drink it straight. It's too strong. But, you know, if you go half ice, half Gatorade, works pretty good.
Tell us about the senior tournament tour that you organize in Florida in the winter. I know it's a series of tournaments for seniors, and you know, tell us about when it starts, what are the surfaces, and I'm assuming that, you know, anyone can enter. It's just by age group.
Yeah, hey, come on down. If you wanted to check it out, if anybody wants to check it out, we've got a pretty good website on it that lists all the tournaments and gives pictures and background on who's playing in it, and we got a lot of information on it. It's called flsupersenior.com.
FL as in Florida. So Frank, Larry.
FL as in supersenior.com.
Okay.
And that if you go there, it's pretty good little website to tell you all about it. But other than that, it's mid January to mid March. We have 2 Category 2 tournaments as part of it. Naturally, in Florida, we play exclusively on the clay courts, but it's 55 all the way up to 85.
So super senior. Okay. So it starts at 55s, goes all the way up, and is it a 5-year age group deal?
5-year increments.
Okay.
So 55, 60, 65. What we do is we have the first 4 tournaments are in Southwest Florida, around the Naples, Fort Myers area. Then the second 4 tournaments are around the Sarasota, St. Petersburg area.
Terrific.
But high quality tennis, and you know, it's a great tournament. If you want to get a good workout and get rid of the cold weather and not want to play on hard courts, it's a good place to come.
Well, I'll post that URL up at the blog, and that sounds like a lot of fun. A couple months on the clay, you know, would just be great. And you know, especially that time of year where, you know, it's probably the only place other than Hawaii where it's really decent weather. So, Larry, what have you got what do you have coming up the rest of this year for your tournament schedule?
Well, not too exciting, but I'm going to play in Atlanta. The Atlanta Senior Invitational is coming up actually next week, I think it is. Next Thursday, the tournament starts. Then I go to Germany. I'm playing on a club team that it's a lot of fun. It's just like a 3-week deal and close to Stuttgart, Germany. We were fortunate the last couple of years our team won the German championship, so I'm pretty proud of that.
And are those players, international players that you know, it's really.
Actually, they're all German except for myself.
I see.
Each team is allowed one so-called ringer.
I got you.
From outside the European area.
Okay.
And then they're allowed one more that's outside of the German area.
Okay, that sounds fun. And then now you've got some other. Are you going to play the national clays and the grass court and the indoors?
I don't really like the indoor or the grass. I just don't think they're necessarily fun tournaments. The indoors is kind of like you go out on court 20 in somewhere and it's fast and dark and, you know, just not much tournament. I like to have a little tournament atmosphere. You know, I mean, even though we had 20 people watching the finals there at Mission Hill, at least there was some atmosphere. You know, you felt like you're playing a tournament.
Right.
And I don't see that with the indoor tournaments. And then the grass is always just, you know, crapshoot. You know, they don't let you wear grass court shoes. They're slippery. It rains. It's just, you know, it's always a nightmare playing this stuff. So I like clay, and the hard. They do a great job at Mission Hills. I'll play the national clay courts in September, and then possibly then go to Turkey for the Cup and World Championships.
Right. Okay, good. Okay, you know what I want to do now, Larry, is I want to open it up to questions from our listening audience. And so, again, guys, one of two ways to ask a question. You can raise your hand, and or you can go ahead and just enter your question text in the question box. We do have one hand raised here. Let me see if I can make this work. PT, can you hear us? The sounds of silence. Okay, I guess not. So, PT, sorry, we can't hear you. So go ahead and enter your question in the text box. So here's a question from local Northern California gentleman, Jeff Healy, and Jeff's question for you, Larry, is how formal is your pre-match routine, and how precise is your match plan?
Well, you like when you're playing a tournament. I mean, the nice thing is if you can play in a tournament, you don't have to play at 8 o'clock in the morning. But the matches there, the hard courts are like at 10 or 11, so that was pretty nice. You could have breakfast, relax a little bit. I usually try to do my 5 to 10 minute stretch, kind of get myself organized, get my sunscreen on and all that stuff, and get all my bag packed. Part of the thing is you want to make sure you got a bar to eat if you run in low. You got whatever water or Gatorade, you got your grips in case your racket craps up, and everything. You got your towel. A lot of guys get to the court and go, oh no, where's my, and they're not quite organized, So definitely need to have things fairly well organized. It doesn't take very long, but that's kind of it.
And then, is there any? I think the other part of the question was, have you, a match strategy plan? I mean, I'm sort of assuming that that for 99% of the guys that you play out there, basically what you're saying is, well, here's my A game. You're going to have to deal with it, which is what we've seen on the videos from Mission Hills. Is there any specific strategy that you go into a match thinking about? I know with Wesley, you mentioned that that you wanted to make sure he didn't get certain types of shots because he's pretty good at passing. But do you have sort of one or two little things that you might consider doing differently depending on who you're playing?
Yeah, I think what you gradually find out is that certain players have tendencies. In other words, like Bill Matthews got unbelievable cross-court shots, but it's always also predominantly his shot. So if you can put yourself in the position to maybe, make him hit that shot, but also be there, then you've got a little advantage. My basic game plan is to be able to, either loop or work the backhand with slice, and naturally, what I usually figure is one side or the other's going to have a little bit of a weakness or give me some openings. Most guys, if I hit the ball pretty hard and deep to their backhand, they're going to have trouble with it. They're going to give me, after a while, they're going to give me a forehand to bomb.
Right.
So that's kind of my go in with my general strategy, and then, maybe some guys play Hugh Thompson, and he's going to drop shot me all day. So I got to play inside the baseline and be ready for the drop shots, and then go from there. And that can be tough sometimes. You got a good drop shotter. Okay, what do I do off the drop shot? Do I shoot it down the line? Do I hit it, pop it short? Do I throw in a few cross courts? One of the shots that I've learned how to hit, which is not an easy shot to hit, but some guys want to practice it, is do a heavy side spin on the ball when you get up close to the ball on a drop shot.
Okay.
And it comes off hitting with heavy spin so that it makes it difficult for them to pass you on the next shot.
Right. Well, I mean, one of the things
Whereas if you come up to sort of run it, down the line and it just sits up, well, then it's easier, so that's a shot to it's a pretty high difficulty shot, but one that might be fun to practice.
GB Yim has a question for you, Larry. I think it's a good one, and we all would kind of like to know how to do it. But what kind of player is the most challenging for you?
Well, I can tell you that probably the Phil Landauer type player is the most challenging because they're sort of the relentless. They hit the serve on the line. They come in. I hit it at their feet. They hit a perfect half volley drop. I hit a good shot. They hit a perfect, volley. They're aggressive and they're, on the ball. And they basically make you hit a good shot every point.
Right.
So after a while you get a little worn out, and it's really hard to continually hit great shots. You hope to put a game or two together, and then on the other side, when you're serving, if you're not getting a good percentage in, then maybe they're starting to attack you a little bit. If you're not getting good depth, or they're starting to put more and more pressure on you. So then in that case, well, okay, maybe I've got to serve and volley some. Takes you a little bit out of your game. And so, the person that can, now I should say that it takes a player like Phil Landauer who can, put that game plan into play and be very, be able to volley extremely well and do it,
Right.
is not necessarily easy. But it takes, a player with a pretty high skill level to be able to do that. But he's one of those guys.
Steve Cornell has got a question for you, Stephen. We've just unmuted you. Go ahead.
Okay, Larry, you look so relaxed playing. Is that part of your mental makeup when you're in a match? You're playing in the finals, like you were at Mission Hills. You just look very relaxed, very calm, with all your shots. Is that something that you try to maintain throughout the match?
Well, I should say that Steve Cornell is also one of those good serving volleyers that put a lot of pressure on there. At least he used to be. But I think when I get into a tournament and I start, like I'm sure you all kind of, after you win a few matches, you start getting a little bit of confidence in your shots, and you're working the point, and you basically, for the most part, hey, you're in control of the match. Maybe you're losing a one or two because they mock off a winner or something, but you feel pretty well that, okay, I just got to hit my shots and I'm in control, and you're feeling, pretty confident. So, hey, I'm going to be nice and relaxed and comfortable, Now, you start getting, Wesley had me down 40 love on my serve at 4-3 in the second. That starts getting me a little nervous.
You didn't look too nervous.
Well, there was a guy that I want to just remark about. When I was a kid, I got to watch, and probably not many people out there remember Manuel Santana. But yeah. I remember he used to play, he was just so relaxed. The guy just, just moved everybody around, but somebody comes to net, hit a little passing shot. Maybe bop him around a bit, get him out of position a bit, hit a winner. And then he would never hit a first serve until he needed one. And then he would hit a perfect ace. And I go, why doesn't he do them often? Because he knows he doesn't have these so it's not like I'm not trying to hit some aces out there, but I think if you have the confidence that, okay, crunch time comes, I can pick it up, I can turn it up a notch. That's a big plus too.
Good, Steve. Hey, thanks for the question. let me see if I can get Tom on here. Tom, can you hear us?
Oh, yes. Hi. Is my mic working?
I can hear you. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I actually just sent the question in in first two. You have such a wonderful rhythm. I think both during the point, between the shots, and between the points. And when I see that in an opponent, I know it discourages me. And I wonder if I'm sure it has the same effect on your opponent. Is that something you practice or work at? Especially that sort of, I think the previous speaker was alluding to that smoothness as well. But I wonder if that's something you practice or if it's just your nature.
You know, there's well, one thing you kind of, I mean, you look at like Roger Federer, when we all like to be like him, he guy just glides around. I think if you do that little bit of sort of hop step and you try to stay up a little bit, now when I get a little lazy and tired, I don't do it as much. There's a little technique that I use in my backhand that some of you could try if you like. It's primarily for a slice backhand, but my first step in going to the ball, in this I've just got to run like a banshee, is going to be a hop step. It's going to be a hop in addition to my hop step. And what it does is it kind of gets me to where I'm making a good step into the ball. So I go hop, up, step, you know, and it kind of gets me gliding. I don't do it as much in my forehand because it really it's for the slice, because you want to, when you hit the slice, you really want to have a good step and sort of lean into that ball with if you're right-handed, your right foot, your front foot. But anyhow, that sort of helps me a little, and I feel like, you know, if you just get that good sort of hop step when the other guy's hitting the ball, which is like if you watch the pros, they do that automatically. That's what helps you sort of glide around the court. Anyway, and playing on clay sometimes helps a little bit too. You can sort of slide a little bit, but even on hard courts, it's nice if you stay up on your toes a little bit. It'll help you be smoother.
Yeah, thanks. We'll have to relook at those videos.
Try that. See if I do it a little bit. I'm hoping I do it. Watch my backhand a little bit when I go to the ball. Usually I'll take a little bit of a hop step just before I start to take off to go to the ball, and it gives me better balance.
Great. Okay. Thanks for the question, Tom. Sam, Bussey's got a good question for you, Larry. You know, what kind of strings are you using now? And it looks like you're using, that you're playing with a Prince graphite. Is that right?
Well, I'm not sure I want to recommend people playing what I play with, but I play with the old Michael Chain racket, Prince racket. That's a 110, the long body, which seems to fit my frame pretty well. You know, my size, it feels like when I get a regular racket now, it feels like I'm playing with a junior racket. And I started when I was the coach at Rice University out in Texas. I started ordering string for a company out there, and I'll give them a little endorsement. It's called New Tech Tennis, and the string is called Alpha. And, you know, it's just almost a generic kind of string. You get it in reels for $3 a set. You get it like for $30. But what I like about it, and it comes in for most players, if you're not a big hitter, get 17 gauge. But if you break your strings a little bit, you get 16 gauge. And the key to it has a soft feel to it.
Right.
Which for me, you're hitting the slice and putting spin on the ball, you've got to have that soft feel. You know, the big bangers that hit heavy top and ripping the ball and stuff, you know, some of that new string is pretty good, and maybe you know, I don't know, maybe it's better, but it's very expensive, and it's you know, the string tension is crazy, and it seems like, for my money, why go try to do all that stuff, and I don't really feel comfortable with it. You know, I played a little bit with it, but it just doesn't do. If anything, it's only as good. You know, it's not better.
Well, I think that's a good comment about, you got to find something that feels good for you, and just because Rafa or a bunch of the guys on the TV are playing with Luxilon or something like that, it just doesn't mean that it's right for us. And
They change rackets once a set. I mean,
right,
I'm going to go on my soapbox here for a second. If you see what everybody else feels, but doesn't it seem nuts that you wouldn't finish the set with one racket? I mean, if you're playing great at 5-4 in the first set, you're going to change your racket. I don't care what the balls change. The balls, they got 10 balls out there. They're almost new when they change them. Why in the world would you want to change your racket, at that point in time? I understand the principle, but it seems to me what's more important is that you got, it's a psyche thing. I got this racket's doing great for me. I'm winning points. I'm going to now change it. Got to have some minuscule difference. Change the racket after the set, not after the ball change.
it seems like I agree with you. It seems like a big risk.
Yeah, there you go.
But anyway,
The string is called, it's actually, the name for it, at New Tech Tennis, we go on the web, it's hard court string, which is kind of funny because I like it on clay. And it comes in white and gold, and I prefer the white string. But anyway, okay.
Jeffrey Kawahara has got a question for you, Larry, and it's related to your slice backhand, and I kind of have the same question too. I mean, I know that you rarely play a topspin backhand unless you've got someone who's maybe serving and volleying, or unless you need to go for a passing shot sometimes. Do you ever, in a rally, when you're just trying to slide that ball back cross court to the ad side, do you ever roll in a topspin backhand as you do with the forehand?
I would have to say seldom. It's funny now, when I do my drill that I'm talking about, where we do 2 cross 1 down, I can do it all day long. But you get in a match, I feel like my slice, I'm pretty much pinpoint accuracy. I'm going to make it, 98% of the time. My topspin, the problem was that if I mishit it a little bit, then it's going to sit up, maybe go short, become a weakness, So, yeah, I should use it a little more, but the thing is, my slice is basically just as good. My topspin, maybe if I whacked it, but I'm not sure. It depends on maybe the time in the game. If I'm up 40 love, I might go for it, just because, okay, I got one I can gamble with.
Sure.
But normally, no. I mean, I'm going to save that thing. But I practice it enough that when it comes to passing, and this is really one of the things that has been the key to my winning more through starting in the 50s, is being able to pass reasonably well with my backhand. And I think you noticed maybe against Paul, I passed him 2 or 3 times with my backhand on fairly big points, and I didn't used to be able to do that. I'd have to slice or do something else. It just wasn't good. And so I changed my topspin backhand to a sort of a Rod Laver backhand that starts with an open face and you roll over it, as opposed to trying to close the face.
Right.
Which I kept hitting the ball low all the time.
Are you going to?
Backhand, even though I don't use it very much, it's been a key to my being able to beat the better players, because they go, okay, I can attack his backhand.
Right.
Well, he's got his slice. They come in, I knock a ball by him with a pass. They go, ooh, I guess I can't attack his backhand.
Is that are you going to a full Eastern backhand grip, or just sort of a still kind of in a sort of a modified continental?
And it's where I start with the face a little bit open and I roll it over.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, you know what? We got time for one more question, Larry, and this is this is related more to teaching the game of tennis. And Philip asks, What are your thoughts on the fact that most teaching pros today insist that kids hit with a two-handed backhand versus a one-handed and a semi to full Western forehand?
Well, that's hey, my mom just walked in, so
Tell her hi. Tell her hi from us.
yeah. Hey, Mom, she wants me to carry the groceries in.
I love it. I love it.
There you go. I'll go out on the porch here, and then I'll answer the question. You know, the key to I like having a two-handed backhand. I think it's great, and it's shown that it's taken away certain volleys because people can't. It's hard to return to so good. But if you don't have slice to go with it, I don't think it's that good. You know, and that's why I like Rafa. He's got a great, you know, he can go slice. And erotic slice isn't bad. So I think it's okay as long as it's the slice is part of it. You know, I don't really like the super Western grips, but you know, because it makes it so much harder to adjust for the volleys. You know,
Right.
I like, you know, I really kind of like it in the Eastern. I think you can get plenty of top spin, but okay, it's semi-Western, but full Western, I don't like. I just think it's too much to, you know, the kids have terrible volleys, you know, because they can't get their grips changed, and also they struggle with low balls. What kids should realize is if somebody's got a super Western grip, you hit a slice low down the line, they're not going to be able to go over and get it. You know, you can't pick the ball up with that kind of grip.
I think one of the biggest problems I've seen with teaching kids that the forehand should be, you know, semi or full Western is they end up using that as their kind of their ready position grip, where they don't know if they're getting a forehand or backhand, and they're holding the semi Western forehand, and the next thing you know is they get a ball that really should be played with a different grip, but because they're already there, they just haven't learned how to use a different grip, and they end up having to kind of, you know, they're just sort of restricted. And I think you're absolutely right. They don't really, you know, learn how to volley, and they don't learn how to play slices, and so I think in terms of doubles, I mean, you know, when I was teaching, you know, it's been 5 or 6 years since you know, I last taught at the club, but one of the things we did with the juniors is make sure, you know what, you guys, we're playing 5 to 6 sets of doubles every week, and you know, you're
And then you got to serve volley. Don't let them stay back.
well, and if you get a second serve, you gotta chip and charge, you know, behind your return. You can't sit there and just wail away. So, well, listen.
Yeah, I mean, mastering all those grips. When I play doubles, a lot of times I'll return with a full Eastern backhand grip.
Right.
To be able to hit a topspin backhand return, I can chip off my forehand if I want. If they hit me a forehand, or even I can hit a continental forehand and bang it. You know,
Sure.
flat.
Right. Good. Okay. Well, listen, Larry. It sounds like it's time to help Mom with the groceries. Really.
There you go.
Really appreciate your time today, and you know, you've been a big inspiration. I think you've really sort of opened up a lot of eyes with your style of play, and I think guys are getting motivated and inspired that, you know what, I don't need to be a big banger. I can go out there, and if I can hit a nice firm slice backhand to the corner, play a firm slice up the line approach, get a high percentage of first serves in, and you know, roll that forehand up, that they're going to have a good chance. So really appreciate your time today, Larry, and hoping we'll be able to do this again sometime soon in the future.
Yeah, look forward to it. You know, and you guys don't get too good out of there because I'm, you know, kind of like winning these things. I don't want to have too many guys come in and beat me, but.
Okay, well, I think you're pretty safe. I think you're pretty safe. So, Larry, thanks so much.
You bet, Brett. Thank you, and look forward to doing it again.
Okay, we'll talk to you again soon.
All right, bye.
Okay, guys, well, I hope you enjoyed this. And, you know, again, I would love to get your feedback I'll go ahead and post this tonight, but any email askbrent@webtennis.net, or when it gets posted up there tonight at the blog. Would love to hear your feedback, and if this is the kind of thing you like, and if so, how can we make it better? What types of players do you want to have on, and all that kind of good stuff. So again, thanks for taking the time today to join us, and we'll talk again soon. Thanks very much.